Having a child is one of the most remarkable things that will ever happen to a human being. Whether the children are birthed naturally or otherwise, having charge over another human being is something that you cannot explain. And these things come with a lot of expectations. As a matter of fact, science has crystallized those expectations. They call them developmental milestones. And whereas most children will attain those milestones as and when due, some will not. And some will never even attain those milestones. Now, those are the children that we call special needs. Those are special needs children, and parenting those children come with their own sets of challenges. The children are special, so they need special round-the-clock care. And that's why we're here today, to talk about fostering wellness in the lives of parents of these special needs children. My name is Olayinka, and today my friends and I, Rahanatu and Zara, we're here to talk about what we can do as parents, carers, and the general public to help raise these special children. I'm going to start with you, Rahanatu. What children really fall under this spectrum of special needs? We know there are children on the autism spectrum. There are children with all kinds of syndromes, the Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and all. So what children, some of these needs are very visible, you can see. But some of these needs, that's the child with autism just passing by you, you don't know. And the society has expectations, for every child. And then when this child is not able to meet that expectations, eyebrows are raised. So what children really do we consider to be special needs?
Thank you for this question. I think you've already answered part of it when you said there are children who do not meet developmental milestones. That's not all there is. Some of them will meet these milestones quickly. They will crawl, they will walk, they will maybe talk, but they have a neurological difference, especially the invisible ones. Like you said, those that are blind and maybe it's cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, they have a droopy look. You all know, that there's something wrong. But there are some of these children that have what we call invisible disabilities, that their neurological disorders is just a different wiring of the brain. And we all know that the brain is a powerhouse of the whole body. So if there's anything that is not aligned, they will be different. So it's this difference that society uses to have a social construct that disables them. They are also, yes, they need special support. They need more support than other children. Some of them might need therapies. Some of them might even need medication. Some of them will need life support. It's not a disease. It's not a sickness that needs to be cured. It's a way of being. So really, it's just how we look at them. And the doctors also, sometimes I ask, who defines disability? With first questions, when parents see that their kids are not meeting those milestones, they go to the hospital. The doctors, they use the medical model, they look at it as a disease that needs to be cured. So they first give a diagnosis, and with that diagnosis, they're looking for prognosis, what medication, what therapy to take. Well, all well and good, because they're all tailored to help improve the life of the child, and the parents as well. Because if you're saddled with caregiving of a child that is going to need support for life, that's your life too we're talking about. That's your normal. So any child that needs extra support to be independent, to meet their full potential, is a special needs child. Sometimes they come in form of gifted and talented children who are super intelligent, and they are not challenged enough in the society, that is also a special needs.
Special needs. That's something, honestly, because when people talk about special needs, they think the first thing that comes to mind is this child needs extra care, this child is dull, this child is not moving with his mates. But now that you're saying that even children that we perceive as gifted children, so the child is really performing well in class, but this child is a special needs child. And I think we need to hammer a lot on that part of special needs, so that people can know that there are so many people that you see around that are actually special needs. You just do not know. So let me come to you, Zara, because you are living it. I mean, Zara is a parent to children with special needs. And the first thing that comes to mind when they talk about special needs children is, God forbid, that I know you have encountered a lot of that. You know, there is actually a part of this country that believe that when a woman is pregnant, she should be very careful about the kinds of children that she comes into contact with, so she doesn't have children like that. I know in my part of the country, they even say pregnant women shouldn't come out at certain times of the day, so they don't have a spirit jump into their tummy and give them children with special needs. So you're living it. Please tell us what it's like.
I think it's a misconception. A lot of people have superstitious beliefs. From where I'm coming from too, it's almost the same. They will tell you once it's 12 midday, you're not supposed to go out, because they believe this is a time where you have some evil spirits apparently roaming around, and then you're pregnant, anything can happen, you know. So there's a lot of that. And then there are people that will tell you, oh, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
You must have done something wrong.
You didn't pray well.
This is like a punishment. You know, God is, what did you do? You know, people will go to that extent to ask so many questions, you know, but some of them, it's coming, I come to realize that some of them is actually coming from a place of love, because after all the bashing, after telling you, what did you do wrong? This is punishment. They will now resort to giving you some prayers that you should go and pray, you know, you should try this, try that. All in all, what we do as parents, for me, I advocate, I don't get tired of telling you it's a medical problem. Just like the way you wake up. Like, people are born healthy, but you don't know how you're going to end. You might end up without a limb. That's a form of disability. You might go blind. If you have serious glaucoma that doesn't go untreated, you will get blind. That's another form of disability. So it's all encompassing. So it doesn't have to do with you did something wrong, you're being punished, something happened actually during your pregnancy or during delivery, something went wrong, and then you have a child that came in with this, or it's a genetic issue, because there are different kinds of special needs. It could be genetic, it could be a mutation, it could be from the process of childbirth. Anything can happen.
You know, thank you, Zara, for that. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
You know, as a parent myself, I will tell you firsthand that when the baby first comes out, you're very happy, you're excited, and it's a lot of fun. People are around, and then the people go and you're left with the child. And it's cute for some time when the child will just be where you keep them. All you need to bother about is feeding them, changing their diapers. But then a time comes when the child begins to pull your glasses. You can't do another thing when you're holding the child. And then your prayer is, oh God, let this child just start crawling so at least I can have some me time. And then the child begins to crawl, and then they begin to pull down things, pull at things, destroy things. And you're like, when will this child begin to walk so that I can have some me time? And then the child begins to walk, and they are stuttering and they are falling. And when will this child be able to walk very well so at least they can be walking and I'm walking? So when we go shopping, you know, I'm free.
You don't have to carry.
I don't have to carry them. And then that comes, you want them to go to school, so at least I can go back to work, I can have this same me time. Now, some of these children that don't attain these milestones will probably stop at an age where they keep crawling or they keep falling. So you are like a perpetual parent to a toddler, for instance. A toddler is good when they are 12 months, 16 months. But when you have a 5-year-old toddler, Rahana, you interact with so many of these parents by virtue of your work at the BRAINBLOOM Center. What kind of comfort are you able to give these parents?
Well, mostly what we do is we give them a listening ear. We reassure them that, this is the gift that God gave you. Accept them, love them. You can't change them, but you can love them. There's no barrier to love, and that is all they need. A lot of these things, parenting doesn't come with a manual.
It doesn't, right?
It doesn't. It doesn't. To do anything serious in life, you need to go and train and get a license, even to drive. But in parenting, you're just given a child. You didn't even, you don't check a checklist and say, I want this, and that. God makes that decision for you. Yeah. The only thing that you give the child is your genes, and so we just tell them to calm down, take a deep breath, look at it this way. You want a child, and God has given you a child, right? This is not the specification that you ordered for, but this is what you have. So just all this child needs from you is love. Try and understand your child, find out their needs, and meet those needs as much as possible. And that is the only thing that you can do. Don't even stop living your life on their account. Try and also have a life. You need to have a balance. Because if you can afford help, get help. If you can't afford help, structure your way around, some conveniences that will allow you that me time for your mental wellness. So we're here for you. If you need anything, any extra time, if you need to talk, if you're confused, we're here for you. We'll guide you, we'll give you support.
Can I add something on
that? I'm really, you're really going to...
At the end of the day, we don't take those kids home with us. We hand them back to you at the end of the day. And we also try to ensure that we're doing the same things. Any strategy we're using here on the children, anything we try on the therapies that we do that we see is working, we share with the parents. We do a lot of collaboration. We share achievements with them, and we also expect them to share. If a child says maybe first time a new word at home, we need to know so that we can celebrate with them.
Zara, I'm coming to you here because I know many people will say easier said than done. You spend 6-8 hours with them in a day, but they go back home. So Zara, what would you consider as help? Because she said something now, if you can afford help, get help. So how do you get help? What exactly is help?
Help can come from anywhere. It could be friends, it could be family. If you're buoyant enough, it could be nannies. Confession time, I have 4. Because last I have to live my own life. Because the problem I notice with parents is they dwell in the situation. You don't need to dwell. There are people around you. You can talk to friends. For that me time, it's very important, because if you don't create a me time, you would definitely get to a breaking point. And once you break, there's no coming back. And then parents also need to see beyond the disability of that child. Now they keep saying, and then comparison. Stop comparing your children with others. Every child grows at their own pace. You can have twins, identical, but they might not grow at the same pace. Every child has their own milestones to achieve at a different time. It doesn't have to be the same time, but then you keep comparing your child. I gave birth together with my sister. Her child is crawling. No, the child is learning how to stand. Mine is still like this. That kills your joy. So we need to learn to see how we can, depart away from comparison, seeing that disability all the time. See beyond the disability. See what that child stands for the child, not because of the label the child has. Yeah, so
Okay, so let's talk about stigmatization now, because I realize that we all have our prejudices and we all stigmatize without knowing that we're doing it. How do you cope with stigmatization?
I think when you get used to it, because it happens and it will keep happening, because a lot of people are not aware. But with time, you learn to grow past that. I have learned a long time. I wasn't this Zara before. It took a lot to be this Zara now. It took a lot of what ifs. It took a lot of guilt. What if I did this? This wouldn't have happened, or I should have tried this, blaming yourself. I blamed myself, because sometimes when people tell me, I have a lot of people that will tell me, if you have done this, Ismail would have been walking by now. Or because my son has visual impairment actually, so he's 90, not really 90%, he's almost 100% blind. So people will tell you, you should have gone for intervention earlier. He wouldn't have been blind. And then I kept on dwelling on that. Why didn't I go to the hospital earlier? So, but then with time, I learned that it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. God chose me. It's a gift, and I accepted it. And I learned to grow past that stage, and I stopped blaming myself. And I took the gift that came with the child, with the blessings. And then the stigma, learn to grow a thick skin. People will talk. Whatever you do, regardless, people will still have something to say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So in like at the Brain Bloom Center now, Rahana, too, you have parents that cannot afford, because the Brain Bloom Center isn't a freebie, It takes money to run the center. It takes money to put things in place, to pay the teachers, to keep the lights on. But there are parents that cannot afford to bring their children to the Brain Bloom Center, but they need the services. So what kind of help are you able to render?
That's a very serious question there. See, there are a lot of people who have come to the center and they would love our services, but the economic situation of the country will not allow us to render free services. We tell the parents of the children, we give installmental payments. We have some good Samaritans that sometimes give donations to the course. We're able to use these donations to give a subsidy, like a scholarship, especially when the fuel subsidy was removed. We had to reach out to some well-meaning Nigerians, like, this is the situation. These children, if they don't continue these therapies, they're going to regress. So please, we need support. And some of them gave us some donations, so we're able to use it to subsidize for the parents. Some parents come here, and when I ask them, where do you live? Come as far as Lube. Like, I would love to take your child, but I don't think you can cope.
Yeah.
So what we can do is we can give them advice. We can help them with IEPs. We develop IEPs, individual education plans, where we set targets for these children with the strategies, and we share with these parents. We're like, okay, find a school near you, have a chat with them, see if they can give your child this extra support. A lot of schools do now. They say if you bring a shadow, at least so that you don't have to worry about the distance you're going to travel.
Yeah, and this was the reason we started the Open Arms initiative for children with special needs, so that we can have like a humanitarian arm of Brain Bloom Center, so that we can take donations from people. We can reach out to people that don't even know that this problem, this is what they have. This is the situation. That's why we're able to connect people with therapists that are willing to work for free and all that. But all that said, sometimes people feel that these kinds of initiatives that we are involved in, they think they are kind of elitists, because it's only the children in the urban centers, urban areas, that are able to access even the counseling we're talking about. What about children in places where this awareness doesn't even exist?
So
You know?
support will come. It's also in a spectrum. For them, I think for them is for them to even be aware that this is what I'm dealing with. You know, that's enough for them to be empowered. That, okay, when your child, you know, he maybe has sensory processing disorder and they're sensitive to certain things and they keep scratching, or they don't want people to hug them and you're flogging them, you're saying they're rude. It's for us to even be able to enlighten them that your child has sensory overload. They don't want to be in a crowd. They don't want to make eye contact. Respect that. That is just the way your child is. You know, I keep giving example with the plants. Like if you have a plant that is not thriving, will you change the plant?
No.
You change the soil, you put manure, you take it out in the sun. That's what you need to do to nurture your child and not force them to conform. So for that level, for them to even understand, this is what I need to do for my child.
Okay, so we're going to go on a break now, and when we come back, I'm still going to take you on, Zara, on the things that people can do medically to avoid some of the issues that you have to face when you have children with special needs.
Discover the vibrant world of BRAINBLOOM Vocational Center, where innovation and style converge to ignite the passions of every child.
Thank you for sticking with us. We're still here discussing fostering wellness in parents of children with special needs. And during the break, we had Dr. Bright joining us. Dr. Bright is a mental health specialist. I was going to ask Zara, right, before Dr. Bright came in, I was going to ask you that, do you think that in your journey as a parent of a child with special needs, do you
children.
really, two
Zara has
children,
two
as a matter
children.
of fact, with special needs, do you think that there is anything that medicine will have done to give you a better outcome?
For both kids or for one? Because they have different diagnoses.
Okay.
For my son, I had an issue during the process of labor and delivery, where he came out, he wasn't breathing, you know, he was almost lifeless, and the hospital was short of a pediatrician, actually.
Okay.
So it was the gynae doctor doing everything with the guidance of a pediatrician over the phone.
Wow.
So probably if there was a pediatrician on ground and all the resources were available, maybe. But then as a Muslim, we have what we call qadr, that's your faith, destiny, whatever Allah has destined for you to happen will definitely happen. But maybe that wouldn't have been this severe, because he has a severe form of brain damage.
Okay.
Now, for my daughter, I don't think medically anything would have been done because it's a genetic mutation. She has Down syndrome, which we all know. She copied an extra chromosome from both of us, dad and I. So that's something that there's nothing you can do about it, you know. But then there are tests you can go for, which I didn't know about till after I gave birth. So sometimes, you know, even the healthcare system does not really help in such cases, because at I think 17 weeks you're supposed to go for anomaly test, and I didn't know about it and I never had the anomaly test. They could have detected that, oh, this baby is coming with Down syndrome, and then you'll be given options. But I know even if I was given options, I wouldn't have gone for the options of the doctors anyway. So so yeah, medically there are things that could have been done to prevent some certain kinds of, because for my son, the cerebral palsy is not genetic. It wasn't genetic. It was actually a medical error that happened that, you know, caused this brain damage to occur and stuff like that. So yeah, medically, there are things that could have been done to avoid some of these issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's come to the mental health professional. So many parents do not even know that they have this issue. And for every medical condition, we know that early intervention would give you better outcomes. So now we're talking about children with special needs. What kind of intervention would you say would have prevented certain things from happening to some children that have special needs? What kind of intervention, and at what stage would you say?
Okay, so there's what we call, if it's genetic mutation, there's really nothing you could have done. You're only able to detect it, like she said. So there's what they call the PGD, genetic diagnosis. One can be done at 8 weeks and then at 16 weeks. So there's a coron villi sampling where you take some amniotic fluid and then, or from the coron villi, and then you analyze it to screen for anomalies, chromosomal mutations, and all of that. So that is only what can be done in terms of preventing, and then options of maybe terminating the pregnancy if a chromosomal anomaly has been detected, that this fetus will probably come down with some chromosomal abnormalities. For people that are not expecting it, nobody really needs to check, especially because the procedures have their own risk as well, and not exactly cheap procedures too. So in terms of preventing, there's very little you could do to prevent. The other ways to sort of prevent is more like the general one, where you encourage women who are trying to conceive or are pregnant to take folic acid, for example. So you're encouraged to take folic acid to prevent maybe some neural tube damage, some brain damage. It helps the nervous system develop very well. So those are the only preventive, I can say. If it's genetic, you only have to screen. And if you can't pick it at that time, there's really nothing else. It's not like there is a particular medication you take and it sort of prevents a genetic mutation or anomaly. No,
But you know what you're getting into.
Yes, if you screen and find that there is going to be a possible mutation in the fetus.
But then now, nowadays there's awareness on what you call it, genetic compatibility between intending couple. Yeah, it's highly advised, because you need to know if genetically you're compatible, because sometimes we don't even know about these things. We only hammer on, genotype, AS or SSAS. No, you need to know if genetically you're compatible with the person you intend to marry, because some of these things, when you get to know if you're not compatible, then what you choose to go ahead, anything can happen.
That's a long English.
Yeah. Yeah.
So medicine is advancing.
Like, do you do this testing before you start dating? Because it's not like I've dated you and we're already in love, we're already seeing our future, then you come and tell us we're genetically incompatible.
That's a long English.
I think there is, medicine is advancing, and there are now people are inventing quicker ways to, find this out. A few years ago, nobody was talking about, genetic testing.
Yeah.
Now it's people now understand the need for it, especially if there is history of a genetic mutation or anomaly that they are trying to make sure they are not, also passing down to their own kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's maybe for things like Down syndrome and the rest. Well, what about for children on the autism spectrum? Is there something the parents could do, maybe after having the child? Is there anything they could do? Is there any proactive measure they could take that will give them better outcomes?
Okay, so autism spectrum, like you mentioned, it's a spectrum.
Big.
From one end of the spectrum, which is maybe non-verbal, to highly functioning people with autism. I've seen some people that that they say, hey, I have autism, but they're high functioning, right? Is there something that the parents could do? It's genetic again. So there is little intervention you can, there's little or nothing you can do, because you can't go and correct the DNA from inside, something like that. It's genetic. So there's very little. What you can do is, when you found out that, okay, this child is probably in this spectrum, then the early intervention for the child, yes, that would work. So that is where you see children having speech therapists, for example. I think there's one speech therapist in BRAINBLOOM Center. So you find the areas that the child needs support, and you are providing support for the child in that area. Yes, and again, for the autistic spectrum disorders, there are lots of interventions that are coming up. There is shock therapy that they use now in certain areas, and I just heard about it. We didn't think that we could use shock, to treat, children with autism, especially ones that have, the muscle rigidity, serious ones, where using shock tended to help alleviate that in some children. Right, using speech therapists now, for example, because we know that the brain learns, especially when at a very young age, the brain learns. So if you're able to intervene, you find that the outcome for such a child that had good, proper intervention after itemizing the areas that the child needs supporting will do way much better than a child that does not have any kind of intervention at all.
Intervention. That's really something, because even the knowledge that you have a condition and acceptance of the condition will help you to take measures that will make life easier for everybody, both the caregivers and the parents as well. So, Ranatu, when you have children children coming to the BRAINBLOOM Center, and you feel that time has been lost because parents didn't take the necessary measures. I'll tell you that I've had a cause to discuss with some parents, and the first thing is that they are in denial. Nobody wants to admit, and then we live in a very religious society, so many people will first tell you, God forbid, it's not my portion. And then when they eventually agree that they have this situation, the next thing is they're very angry. People are angry. Why should this be my own lot? I did everything right. Why am I in this situation? And then sometimes people get depressed. They get very sad. Somebody said something, gave me an analogy, says that having a child is like preparing for a trip, for instance, to Italy. So because you're going on a trip to Italy, for instance, you begin to learn the language, you learn about the weather, you research hotels and fun things to do. And then the day comes, you get on the plane or on the ship, and then you get to your destination, and what you hear is welcome to Spain. So the first thing that happens is, Spain? Me? No. This person doesn't know what they're talking about. I set out to go to Italy, and now you say I'm in Spain. So that's the denial. And then the anger. Why did you bring me to Spain? I told you I was going to Italy. And then the sadness. Now I'm in Spain. What's going to happen with all the Italian I have learned? What's going to happen with the money I paid for the hotel? How am I going to get a new place? The confusion, the depression, and everything. And in the process of doing that, many people will not see the beauty of Spain. And some people are going to live a lifetime not seeing the beauty of their new destination. So you have those kind of parents coming to the BRAINBLOOM Center. The child has lost time because they went through the the motions. So how do you handle those kind of situations? First with the child and then the parents.
Well, at the Brain Bloom Center, our focus is mainly on the child. We assess the child, we find out the needs and see how we can meet those needs. But then again, if the parent is not okay, the child can never be okay.
Yeah.
So we have to bring the parents in. Sometimes, when we set targets, we share with them, we ask them, is there anything you want to see your child do that we have not put on his individual plan? So we bring them in as partners. We plan for this child together. We share the strategies. We ask them what they do that works for them. And then we tell them what we have tried that works for us. And when they feel that we're not alone and we're all working for the progress of this child, we celebrate even the tiniest milestones together. That makes them feel accepted, they themselves, because sometimes you have even some friends run away from parents of children with special needs. They invite other children to the parties and they say, don't bring this one. Why? Because it will make other invited people uncomfortable. So they come as a package, really. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
So we also try to make, we plan events. I know the Olive Prime, they've partnered with us, Savannah. We've had some community engagement programs for the parents where we try to enlighten them. We have given them free assessments so that they're confused about certain things they're seeing. They don't know what's going on. The Olive Prime have always, been gracious enough to bring their psychologists here free of charge. So we try to give them that kind of support. And, very soon, something is cooking. We've started making noise about it.
Yeah, we're going to really talk about that.
Wellness for the parents of children with special needs, because they need taking care of. If they empty their cups, they don't have anything to give. The whole system is going to collapse. And it will be a shame on society. We sit back and we watch this kind of thing happen.
Yeah, so true. So, Zara, we're going to now talk about coping mechanisms. You said something. You said you have four.
Yes, I love myself like that.
And I know that I have been in a party before, and this woman was dancing. She was enjoying herself, and someone just made a remark that got me so emotional. She just said, "See the way she's dancing." Meanwhile, she has a handicapped child. So even society doesn't, much as it seems like people are sympathetic towards your cause. At the same time, a lot of people do not think that you should cope. So how do you cope?
First things first, I don't need sympathy. That's one. It's not a pitiable situation. I have everything under control. I don't need anybody's pity, but then yet we need people to empathize. Put yourself in our shoes. Tomorrow it could be you, because because today I have a child or two children who are special needs doesn't mean as long as you are giving birth to children, we're not praying. There are things you cannot avoid, right? So put yourself in my shoes. What if it were you? Would you have said the things you are saying to me now? That's one. And then two, coping mechanisms. Like I said, I have 4 healths. Like I cannot come and kill myself and die. There's too much to life, And then I have learned a long time ago to see beyond this disability of my children. It doesn't define my kids. It does not define who they are. And then what people don't know is you learn from these children.
A lot now.
There is a lot you learn. I have learned resilience, as in, because if I can see my child that cannot see my face, a child that has never seen what I look like or his father, and then yet he gives you the most beautiful smile. Why do I need to complain? I have no cause to complain. Then again, I have a child with Down syndrome who is also on the spectrum, actually, because she has autism. And, she does the most amazing things that sometimes it makes you wonder, oh my goodness. Because, there's something about my son, because he has cerebral palsy, a lot of things are not functioning well in the body. So he has respiratory problems where he tends to aspirate even with his saliva. That's choking, actually, in layman's terms. So, sometimes I didn't know that my daughter was actually learning what we do. So once he starts aspirating or he starts coughing or choking, we pat the chest or the back. And then one day I noticed this child, she came up because his wheelchair has a platform where the legs rest on. She climbed the platform and she was patting his chest. And this is a child that hardly even looks in your eyes. But she has seen all these things. So that alone is something that drives the passion that I have. So I have no reason to complain. I have no reason to wallow in the situation because I can see the potentials they both have.
That's so true. So you mentioned something. You don't need the sympathy. You just want the empathy. And you will agree with me as a mental health professional that there's a very fine line between sympathy and empathy.
True.
There's a very fine. You don't know when you're crossing over. They need the empathy. You as a professional, you only have empathy to give, but the populace have sympathy to give. So I'm going to ask you, what would you consider to be help for parents with these children?
Okay. So again, it's empathy, which is just...
That's a very big word. That's why...
Yeah, just put yourself in it. So empathy, with sympathy, there is... the person is here, I'm here, and I'm looking at the person, oh, what a pity. With empathy, you're putting yourself at the person's level, putting yourself in the person's shoes, feeling the emotions that they would feel, and validating those emotions. That is empathy. So what would help look like? It's you not, number one, always referring to their situation as if it's an elephant in the room. You are comfortable sharing what you notice, ideas, opinions about it, without feeling like it's a lot. Because sometimes some people have, walk on eggshells around those topics. And what they don't know is that it's even more uncomfortable when you're walking around eggshells, around the topic of, somebody attending to their child or children with special needs. So it's, again, empathy is not stigmatizing.
Okay.
Right? Not stigmatizing. What is stigmatizing is feeling like something's wrong with that person because of the condition that they have. The person is less than human. So you don't want to do that. So support is treating this person like you treat every other person. That is support. Because you need to recognize the situation, but at the same time, you're not looking down on them like they're not getting enough from life, that there's something that they're lacking in life because they are experiencing, this. It tends to be what people will look for, or, their own expression that, oh, this person might not be enjoying the best of life because they have this condition, they have that condition, or they have children with this condition. No, that's not true. Because everybody lives life differently. So support is treating this person like you treat every other person with respect, with dignity.
Okay. So I will still say that that's much as we understand that what you've just said, that's still a lot of theory. So I'll come back to you, Zara. At maybe in a birthday party, for instance, what would you consider to be a show of empathy towards your children?
Okay, so quite recently, my kids were invited. Actually, it's a family birthday party. I wasn't there, actually. The dad took them because I was out of town. But from what he told me, and I saw the videos, everybody wanted to carry Ismail. Everybody wanted to make sure Ismail was comfortable. And, somewhere even going as far as, I hope the music is not too loud for him. We can do something about it. That is empathy. You know, that is showing you care. You see Ismail and you care about his well-being in that particular birthday party. He was invited in the first place. A lot of times people wouldn't even want to invite because maybe they don't want other kids to stare, you know, they don't want people to talk about, oh, why is he on a wheelchair? But all the kids there wanted to even climb the wheelchair to, you know, play with Ismail. They were just like, oh, and then he loves outdoors. He is an outdoor child. Like, take him outside and all the 32. He doesn't have 32 anyway, but all the teeth will be shining. You know, he has that in him. And there's this thing about these children. I don't know, but I started noticing quite recently that they draw all the children to them. There's this, you know, I don't know if it's curiosity from the other children. Oh, they're curious. Why? Is it not because they're trying to empathize, but they're curious. They want to know why is this child on a wheelchair, yet he can smile, you know, he responds and stuff like that. So to me, you know, those people in that birthday party that were so concerned about how well Ismail was comfortable in that birthday party, you know, it topped everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Now we set out to talk about parents of children living with special needs, and I don't know whether you all have noticed that we have talked more about the children living with special needs than the parents, and this has been deliberate because I wanted to bring out this point. The moment you have a child, people that will ordinarily have asked you, how are you? The first thing they ask is, how is the child?
Exactly.
Someone even mentioned yesterday that when you buy a car, people that would say, hi, how are you? The first thing they will ask you when they see you walking down the street is, where's the car? You know?
Yes.
So when you have a child, all attention shifts to the child. And then when you have a child with special needs, all attention is on the child with special needs.
Yes.
And you mentioned something, I don't know, one of you mentioned something that if the parent, Rahana to say, if the parent isn't okay, the child cannot be okay.
Yeah.
So the real purpose of gathering here today is to talk about how we can support the parents. There are people that are willing to do something, they just don't know. Some people are looking at you from a distance. It is not that they don't feel your pain or they're not putting themselves in your shoes, but they don't know how. What will be meaningful support for you. So I think, Rahana, you need to talk on the program that the Brain Bloom Center is about to host, fostering wellness.
Okay, so this came about because, like I said, all the partners in this, the Brain Bloom Center, the Olive Prime Psychological Services, Heaven Homes Foundation. Did I mention Zara has a foundation that she uses to support other parents of children with special needs, and coaching with Didi. She's also a mental wellness. We came together and we decided, from my experience of working with these children and having to deal with the parents, God knows how many times I've had to lock my office and give out a tissue. You know, we're helping them to navigate. We know that there's a lot of stress involved. There's anxiety. There's burnout. There's frustration. They have good days and bad days. And for these children to foster, since we're in the business of taking care of children with special needs, we have to take care of the parents as well. Since we can't go to their houses and do whatever, we decided, okay, let's come together and give them some coping mechanisms. You know, teach them how to manage their mental health, keep it positive, and teach them also things that they can do when they feel stressed. When Zara is talking, you know that she has come a long way. Her journey didn't just start. She didn't just get to where she is now, where she's saying, oh, I've gone past that. I see beyond my children's disability. I've grown thick skin to stigmatization. Some people have just started on their journey, especially when you first get a diagnosis. There's a lot of anxiety involved. Some people get panic attacks, especially if the people around you family, friends, spouses
Spouses,
especially,
yeah.
are not on board with you, I don't want to imagine what they go through. But you know, there's with every problem, it has a solution. You only need to know where to look. So we want to give them, you know, the strategies to cope. I think Dr. Bright will be able to say more on that because they're the experts on the coping strategies. All I do is give a listening ear, do assessments, set targets, and tell you this is what we need to do to make sure your child is, you know, we're aiming to have independent adults, you know, who are productive to society. So if we don't help these parents to thrive, that's why we said thriving together. We can't strive independently. We have to go together, not just the mother and the child, the society as a whole, because we lose a lot when they are not in it. You know, they have talents economically, you know, they can work, they can bring income to the family, and if they are not able to do that because they're depressed or they can't get out of bed, they're tired constantly, when the society, the community is losing out on whatever gifts they have to offer. Exactly. And we're also depriving us, like she said at the birthday party, other children were curious, they want to know. That is the first step to acceptance. Now these children will be able to appreciate who they are and what they can do. They can be able to see how blessed they are. You know, it's one thing looking at a bouquet of flowers and saying, oh, what a lovely bouquet, and it's another thing noticing all the different colors, the different textures of the petals, seeing the tiny designs. You know, that's a different level of appreciation. And you know, to get there, we have to carry everybody along. We have to notice, you know. And again, there's an African adage that says it takes a village to raise a child. Most of the problems we're having now is because we have compartmentalized family. We don't carry everybody along. You know, so your biggest achievement is not for you to get up there, but how many people can you bring up with you? That's even a better achievement than you being an achiever.
That's wonderful.
So that's what this program is all about. We want to, you know, these parents need to be okay. So we want to give them that. It's going to be a fun day. It's going to be the environment is beautiful. The ambience is amazing. They should just get away from their problems for that day. There's going to be good food, good music, and a lot of positive talk.
Yeah, Dr. Brian, you want to also talk about the program?
Yes. So, like you rightly mentioned, when it has to do with children, first of all, attention is always on the children. When it's children with special needs, the entire family shifts. And if there are even other children in the family that are not in the autistic spectrum or have, you know, any special needs, attention shifts from those children as well. So there's a lot that affects this. There's a lot that changes in the family dynamics. There's a lot of focus on that child with special needs, to a point where others might feel like they're not living their own lives and everything has to be about this child, right? And believe me, even the parents and caregivers of special needs children, they would feel that from time to time as well. I can't go out when I want to go out because I always have to put this first. You know, I can't just take sudden trips. It cannot happen. Why? Because I need to make sure that this is in place, this is in place. So it means that before I make any decision about my own life, I have to put into perspective this child. And it can be a lot for some parents. Some parents have come to grasp it and it's now okay. But sometimes, some that are still starting that journey, they will be seriously stressed and, you know, burnt out even from all of this, including this stuff. So these thoughts create that anxiety, that depression, that sadness, that frustration, and that feeling like I'm not living my life, the life that I want to live. I'm not pursuing my career in the way I want to, my goals, my ambitions, and all my life now is about this. It feels like my life now has a purpose and it's this child. So the reason for this gathering that we're organizing is, number one, so that these parents will know that, number one, you're not alone. You are not alone. And when they feel that sense of being in a community, being amongst other people that have the same challenge,
Yeah.
and they can also share their story.
Yeah, and offer support.
Yes, offer support. We've seen that even people who, mental health, there's a lot of impact group, therapy, does for people. That is why you see tremendous impact in, Narcotic Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, and all of that. Why? Because these are support groups. So who forms a support group for parents that are having this peculiar challenge? If they have support group, apart from their individual motivation to, go through their situation, build resilience, manage their emotions better, that support group also helps. The fact that they can take a break, and breathe amongst other people that have special needs children, and just laugh, it can be very, very helpful and therapeutic for them. So that is what we want to do. Because if these parents are healthy, these caregivers are healthy, they're mentally sound and stable, it will be easier for them to give the care and the love that these children need. But if they are not, if a parent is going through depression, is going through anxiety, is going through stress, how much energy will be left for them to attend to their children? We see that if we really want to focus on these children and give them the best, then we need to be able to take care of the parents. And that is what this whole thing is about.
Wow.
I feel like clapping.
Yeah, you can clap actually. You just summed it up.
Roll and a
Clap. Good.
Good job.
So, thank you very much, everyone, for sharing your afternoon with us at the BRAINBLOOM Center. Thank you so much.
I have something to
Okay.
say. Are you about to round up? I want to just say that we should see these parents more often. A lot of them have become multi-professionals because of these children. So I think that's one good thing. Because when she's talking, you hear all the medical terms she's using. She didn't read medicine.
I studied history.
Can you imagine? Now she's a doctor. She can have a chat with a doctor, and you and I will be lost.
Yeah.
She's an educator because they have to teach their children. She's a nurse. Sometimes before you run to
administered
hospital,
drips and injections actually, because I had to learn how to do that. Yeah.
it's a lot for one person to take on.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So we want to, spotlight on you. You know that you're a hero.
Yeah.
These parents, they're unsung heroes. When we celebrate the military, all the people the doctors, the nurses, we're celebrating. There's a special day, international day, to celebrate all these professionals.
Yeah.
But this isn't a single day to celebrate parents of children with extra needs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So so we've all heard it. It's these people are doing the jobs of 10, 15, 20 people sometimes. And recently I've had cause to take care of a sick person, and a friend walked in and she brought me a sweet treat. She brought me a cake, and she left. And after a while, I ate the cake and I cried because somebody thought of me. Every other person came for the sick person, but somebody knew that the sick person couldn't eat, but she brought me a cake. Thank you, Rahana, too. That's my friend. She did that for me. So you've heard it. We're having this program on the 8th of June here in Abuja. People have been asking, how can I help parents of children with special needs? One thing you could do is to spread the awareness for this program. You can let them know that this program is happening. Another thing you could do, you could take it a step further and sponsor a parent to come and have a fun day. You will be doing a world of good, not only for the child, but for their parents. Thank you so much for being with us, spending the past hour or so with us. And just before we go, Zara, you have been doing this work for a while now. and I think that when, like you said, we should celebrate our milestones, in whatever we're doing. So maybe you could run us through a little bit of what you've been able to achieve with your foundation.
Okay, so with the Heaven Homes Foundation, I've been running it successfully for almost 3 years now. And I can tell you, from having a support group, what support does to parents is amazing. These parents have goals, aspirations that they had to, put on hold because, here is the child and I don't know what to do with the child. But then having this support, when you speak to them and then you tell them, I have two. And they're like, Auntie Zara, you have two. And I'm like, yes, I do. And I'm a civil servant one. I have multiple businesses. I lay counsel. I'm a lay counselor. And then I coach. I'm not a professional coach like that, but then I can coach you into going into a successful business. That's something I started doing quite recently. And then the most important thing that I did, the milestones I will say I have achieved so far with Heaven Home Support Group, because we call it a support community. It's a community of parents. I have been able to mentor 2 mothers who have successfully opened up their own NGOs, helping other parents who have the same children with ours. One is in Lagos doing amazing thing, and then the other one is in Niger State, even though she lost the child, but she's still moving. So this is what support can do. Yeah, because like the professionals always say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Empty cup,
so
right?
Once you're able to, get these parents on their feet and they understand that they have potentials too, and they can do it, believe me, they will amaze you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've heard it. For all of you wondering how you can help parents with children, parents of children with special needs.
Can I add to that?
Okay.
One thing we can also do to support them is to give them respite. You know how you would babysit for your friends, they want to go out.
Yeah.
Offer to babysit for them. Invite their children for, a sleepover. That's one big way to support, because, we might have a challenge, we're going through stuff, we know that, it's just for a period. We're looking for it to come to an end.
But for these parents, it's not going to come to an end.
It's a
non-stop.
lifetime. It's like a life sentence.
Yeah.
So if you're a friend or a neighbor or a relative of a parent with children with special needs, offer to take the kids off them once in a while. So
or you can just buy a voucher, a ticket for the upcoming program on the 8th. And here in Abuja, and let's have fun. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.